Hello people, ELAVI Truth TV here again, and today I'm taking you into a dark area. It's not a pleasant subject, but sometimes we have to look into these areas. Now, we're going into the mind of a paedophile, and the reason I'm doing this is because first off, I don't want to be giving any real airtime to deplorable characters like this who are basically less than human in my opinion, because if you would forfeit your right to humanity by abusing children, then you are less than human, because the children are the most precious thing that we have, are they not? But I think it's important to understand the enemy. You know, we have to study the enemy to understand the enemy, just like the enemy studies our children, because paedophiles do study our children. And I hope that this video will give you a little bit of an insight into how that's done and why it's done. Now, the type of child abuse we're looking at is what's known as the predatory paedophile. A lot of them operate to a degree on their own, although there are networks. So we're not talking about the organized, high-level type of paedophile rings that go on, you know, the elite stuff that goes on. But it's interesting to understand how these low-level individuals kind of support the high-level individuals. And I'm going to go into that in more detail in another video. But the high-level paedophile rings like these individuals, because these individuals are able to traumatize children at early ages, and then they can take advantage of the trauma that is already embedded in these children. You know, a victim of one type of animal, an abuser, is fodder for other abusers, so to speak. So I want to tackle this from a couple of angles. I want to tackle this from the family court angle that seems to be prevalent in letting a lot of these kind of predatory individuals off the hook. And although the prison is full of them, you know, we have a real problem within society to do with paedophilia. Now, this picture says that the family court, this is the Central Family Court in London, it says that it's a court of protection. Is it actually protecting the children? So we need to look at it from that angle. But I also want to look at it from a personal angle, and I want to say that many people understand that, and I've said it a few times. I did a great interview or talk with Donna Joseph, wonderful YouTuber. Please check her out, check out her channel, Searching for Truth Now. Great podcast, she does a lot of work, she's a radio presenter, great work. So I spoke about how, and I've spoken about it in a few times, but I did speak in the podcast that we did together about the fact that my relationship was breaking down, and it really broke down once we got involved with this group here, Capoeira Angola Manchester. And it was as a result of the mother of my children getting involved with these two characters. Now, these two characters were basically exploiting the group, and had really built the group, which wasn't originally a group that was built on just adults, but just children, should I say. It was an adult group that then opened its door and redefined itself once this person came on board to just deal with children. Now, I started fighting because I was losing contact with my children, because I don't want to go too deeply into what really went on with the mother of my children and these two characters, but it wasn't good. And what was happening in terms of my children is that she was allowing the children to be taken and sleeping in different people's homes overnight, 3-4 nights at a time and stuff like this. I wasn't a happy man. So, because I'm very protective of my children, and I didn't grow up with my mother, you know, letting me sleep here and letting me sleep here. She just wasn't down with that kind of thing. Thank you, Mummy. So I wasn't happy, and I made certain complaints. To cut a long story short, I shut down this group But as a result of shutting down this group and my complaints, remember, the pen is a very powerful thing. Complaints are more powerful than we think if we do them in the right way. As a result of this, I was able to find out that 2 individuals in the group had actually had convictions that prevented them from working with children. Due to data protection, I was unable to get the names of these individuals, but I knew that the individuals existed, and I knew once it came out, they actually kicked this group out of Z Arts, which was the organisation and building that housed these people, because they gained so much money a year for children activities. They had to get rid of this group. This group no longer exists, in the form it did at least. And I tried to do my best to make sure that this group won't exist anymore. Am I being vindictive? No, what I'm doing is this. I'm protecting other children, because I don't know, it could possibly be those 2 individuals. So I'm coming from a personal angle like that. Yeah, because the mother of my children, as I've stated, is a narcissistic individual, and she wouldn't believe for such a long time that 2 individuals that she could have been potentially giving access to my children were actually potential paedophiles, had convictions for interactions with children that were criminal. Powerful stuff, dangerous stuff, scary stuff. So that's why I'm doing this video, because it's really about how these predatory paedophiles gain access to our children. And the last thing I'd like to say before we go into this individual is this. I also have the experience of seeing how these individuals are treated within the prison system, because I was shocked to see how many of them were actually in prison. A lot of them who look like normal people. They're not the monster looking people that you might think many of the times, just average looking people who are so manipulative that it's untrue. So when I was in prison, I used to go to the chapel. I don't go to church really. I'm not involved in any organised religion, but when you're locked in a cell for 23 hours a day, you know, the option of getting out of your cell to go to any activity sometimes is very, very freeing, so to speak. So I used to go to the chapel on a few occasions, didn't enjoy it that much, but I used to notice that there were a lot of people in the chapel that were very into it and dancing around, some of them, to the music that they'd play in the chapel. And one time I was coming from the chapel when they'd lead you back to your wing, and as we passed each wing, a few people would drop off from the main group. But then there was a massive drop off when we passed the paedophile wing. The nonce wing is what they call it in prison. Sex offenders wing. I was shocked to see that all these people were going to chapel, and it was it made me question, because it was almost like these people trying to send the prison service a message that they were rehabilitated and had some kind of faith now. I believe it's because they were trying to find some way of living with the sins that they perpetuated. Those that had a conscience, many don't. So we're going to go in and have a look at this guy now. So let's go in.
How did you get them alone?
Grooming. I would check out their family situation. I would check out their clothing to see how well they were, you know, financially. I would check out their social interaction with other kids. You know, when we were on the ballparks or on the gym floor, you know, I would make sure which ones I wanted to molest. I would give them special attention, congratulate them, talk to them when I know that I would never be allowed to talk to anybody else. You know, aside from everybody, I would give them the attention that an official is not supposed to give anybody, and it made them feel like, wow, he's paying me attention. You know, it is a direct form of grooming.
Were there certain characteristics that you looked for in children before molesting them?
In children, yes, but more I also looked at their families. If I thought the father was a threat, I would not approach the child.
There we have it, people. Very important point. Did you hear it? If he thought that the father was a threat, he would leave the child alone. So he'd be looking for an absent father. He'd be analysing the child. He mentioned that he was an official, so it gives you the idea. I don't know exactly who this person is, I found this video. But it gives you the idea that this is an official, somebody that is in a powerful position, that is able to build the esteem, if you like, of a child that is lacking in self-esteem. A vulnerable child. He'd look at the clothes that the children were wearing. But I want to bring it back to the whole father thing, because as a father that has been taken out of the lives of my children by the family court, and having spoken to so many fathers that have been taken out of the lives of their children, is it any wonder that predators are able to do this in the lives of children? Because isn't a predator supposed to be afraid of a father? Isn't a father supposed to be the kind of man that a predator is afraid of? Because is it not my job as a father to protect the children? I don't need to answer that question for myself. But I think that the system needs to answer the question. And other people need to answer the question. Fathers need to answer the question. Because we need to make sure that our role is secure in the lives of our children. And at the moment it's not, so we're fighting for something that's been taken from us. So the thing is this, we have a predatory individual here that is able to analyse the role of the mother, analyse the role of the father, analyse the child, and separate the child to become its victim. Now in my life, when I was involved with this group, I realised that I had already been alienated from my children by the narcissistic mother, who had become infatuated with these two individuals and had become the secretary of the group, believe it or not. What she was actually doing is fulfilling her desire for narcissistic supply from these individuals. So her payment came that way. And then access to the children, because whether the children were being exploited on a sexual level or on a financial level, it didn't matter to me because they were being exploited. And I hope it wasn't these two individuals who were the ones that had the convictions for child criminal activity. But would I be able to trust these people? Not a chance. Why? Because I'm their father and I need to be that person who they fear. So we had a situation which again hasn't been resolved, and I need to know if anything did happen to my children, but that's another side issue, a painful issue. But we're going to go a little bit deeper, you know, and I need to also leave you with the fact that, like I say, the family court is annihilating the role of the father. Now, I'm not saying that mothers are not being alienated, because that would be foolish to say. I've met so many. I spoke to one yesterday. But I'm talking specifically about the role of the father in the family unit to protect children. So let's go deeper into this mind of this depraved individual. Let's go a little bit deeper and to see how he would take it even further.
If I thought that the child had friends that he would tell, I would not approach him. If I thought the child had friends that were in the same capacity he was, I would approach him. For the simple fact that if I could molest him, I could lure him into believing, grooming him into believing that he would enjoy it. And therefore, I could manipulate him into having his other friends come and be molested by me as well.
Now this is so powerful, because this individual is basically stating that if the child had any friends that may tell, he wouldn't approach the child. But if the child was isolated from friends, or if the child had any friends that were as vulnerable as the other of the child that was being focused on, then he would use that child, groom that child into indoctrinating the other children to make that child believe that what was happening to that child was something that was enjoyable to the child. Now, I need parents to understand this because, you know, we're looking at something so destructive and insidious to make a child believe that the abuse that's happening to them is something that they're enjoying, something that they are almost protecting the predatory paedophile. And then we must focus on the fact that, you know, one child that is being abused could be the key to so many other children being abused, because this individual stated that if the child was connected or had friends who were also similar mindset, similar situation, then he would use that child to open the door to other children. Is this something that we should know about? Should we study the mind of a paedophile in order to protect our children? I don't believe that we have any choice. We must do, don't we? Yeah. We must, under every circumstance, understand the devils that are using every opportunity to get to our children. Let's go a little bit further.
Friends, maybe not really a strong family, things like that.
Yes, no spiritual values, weak in education, you know, needs help in many ways, even from split parenting, you know, has a mother who may be having problems with the family, you know, well, here comes superhero in to help out, you know, wow, well, thank you very much. No problem. You ever need me to take them away for the night so you can have a night out? No problem. It works.
Low in education, lacking in spiritual values. Now, what does this actually mean in terms of lacking in spiritual values? So this individual, this predator, would actually be looking into the mindset of the child to find out if it has any spiritual values. But just to break that down for you, what that actually means is the child understanding its worth, the child understanding what is actually right or wrong. You know, because when you educate a child about what is right, what is acceptable, what is good and evil, you're able to send a child messages from an early age that they can't be violated, or it's going to be much harder for them to be violated. So it's very interesting, it's a very powerful thing that this individual is saying, especially in a system and a society like this where morals seem to be broken down, spiritual values seem to be broken down and stripped away from our society. And this is not from the bottom up, it's from the top down. Now let's bounce to something else he said, looking at the mother, because he mentioned the mother, the single mother, the split, the broken family. He coming into that situation as the hero, the saviour, to help her with her children, to alleviate her load. Listen, we must understand this, that in society we have a lot of problems. There's a lot of areas that we need to look at. And I've only made this video to give us an insight into the stuff that's happening daily in our schools, in our clubs, in our every areas that we can have children, this is going to be happening. So we must understand that from the perspective of, you know, my situation, for instance. Do you know how many times I would have thought to myself and constantly do, you know, the mother of my children is a single woman, a single mother. She wants to have a relationship, nothing wrong with that. But does she have the insight to know about the person that is coming into her life And a result of coming into her life is coming into the life of my children. And we must replicate this for everybody else, because I'm sure every father thinks this who's not in the lives of their children. Well, I'm a zero tolerance man, yeah. Because anybody that is going to come into the lives of my children have to be vetted, so to speak. And I've not been able to do that, so it's very problematic. If you look at certain videos that I've made with regards to certain entities, even within the family of the mother of my children, you know that there's issues that need addressing. And those issues will be addressed in time. But I digress slightly again, so let's just bring it back to end. I've done this video that might be triggering for some people or uncomfortable for some people, or some people might say it's a bit close to the bone or we shouldn't be looking at these things. I've done it because people are living with the reality of suffering, of living with the reality of abuse and trauma. And, you know, I've got 2 interviews coming soon that go deeper into this subject with a couple of victims. They were originally victims, but they are survivors, thrivers, and power people that have resurrected themselves from horrific situations to become people that are healing other victims, other survivors of abuse. And we're talking about childhood abuse in many situations, and I won't go too deeply into that now, but I'm just trying to make people understand that we have a real danger, an ever-present danger in society, that is the people that I've highlighted here today. So I'd like to end this by just saying that we need to start building networks, and just like these paedophiles build networks between themselves. You know, some of the things that just really hurts me is the way that we're unable, as alienated parents, as parents who have been suffering from the fact that their children have been stolen in one way or the other. It could be forced adoption, it could be parental alienation. We're all the same, we're all in the boat together, and we should all have one aim. Yes, we want to protect our own individual children, but we must remember this, that there is an African saying that states it takes a village to raise a child. I'd like to change that and say it takes a whole village to protect a child. It takes more than a village to protect a child. It takes us as an entire society to join together to protect the children. Now, there's so many groups out there that are working tirelessly to protect the children, and I applaud them all. I'm part of many of them. I network with these people, and we are working together, you know, and overcoming those things that keep us separate. But we must make an even more intense effort, because as time seems to be going on, we're not solving the problems, we're exasperating the problems. And we must change this. We must change this. So people, thank you for watching this video. I hope it hasn't been too uncomfortable for some people. I'm not here to trigger people who have been hurt in the past, but as I say, I'm trying to show you the enemy. Thank you. I'll see you very soon.